plantation, tractor planting speed, and downforce effect on peanut seed spacing, NDVI, plant stand, and yield. Hayden, Godwin.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction, Dr. Kimmerat. My name is Hayden Godwin with the University of Georgia. So tractor speed when planting, it may influence the uniformity of seed spacing and subsequently plant emergence. And sometimes there are external factors during planting season, such as impending rain, where a producer may decide that he needs to cover more ground in the same amount of time. And the only way that you can do that without buying a larger planter is to increase your tractor speed. And downforce may impact the ability to achieve your optimal seed depth, depending on soil compaction, or maybe even more importantly on just soil type. And planting at the faster speeds may lead to non-uniform seed placement, and in some extreme cases may lead to such a poor stand that a replant situation might be necessary, which is only going to cost more time and more money. This study was conducted to determine the optimal tractor speed and downforce pressure to achieve an optimum seed spacing, a normalized difference vegetative index, which from here on out we'll refer to as NDVI, best plant stand, and highest yield. So I've got two videos right here that we took at planting. I'll go ahead and play the one on the left. That's going to be our slow speed. That's in real time, and you can see that the planter, especially the hoppers on the planting unit, they seem pretty level and don't seem to be bouncing. And now I'll play this video on the right. This is our faster planting speed. Two things you're going to notice, as far, of course, you know, naturally the planter is, or the tractor, excuse me, is moving at a much higher rate of speed. And also the hoppers at the back of the planter are going to almost seem to be bouncing a little bit at this high speed. So if you're planting and your hoppers are bouncing up and down, they may bounce, you know, 2-3 centimeters, and that could potentially affect your depth that you have it set to. These trials were conducted in Tifton and Attapulgus, Georgia in 2020. We used industry standard Georgia 06G seed. We had a randomized complete block experimental design with a factorial arrangement of 4 planting speeds and 4 downforce settings. And data analysis was performed in using proc limits and SAS version 9.4 with Tukey's honestly significant difference test for our mean separation. 4 tractor speeds were used at planting. We considered those ultra slow, which was 4.0, medium slow, which was 6.4, and medium fast, which was 8.6, and finally ultra fast, which was 11.1 kilometers per hour. And we also used 4 different downforce settings at planting. If you can see this picture kind of right here in the middle, inside the blue oval, that's how we were able to manipulate our downforce setting, where this first notch here was 445 newtons. Then you can just pull that pin and slide it down to this notch here. It'd be 890 newtons, and on to the third notch, which would be 1335 newtons. And it's stuck behind this collar, and you can't see it here, but there is another notch, and that was 1780 newtons, which was our greatest amount of force that we used in this study. Emergence counts were conducted at 7, 14, and 21 days after planting. Seed spacing measurements were recorded over 300 centimeters of plot row, and that's what this picture on the right here is. We were able to take off one of the press wheels on one of the outside sample rows, which prevented the furrow from being caved in with soil, so we were able to actually measure the distance between each seed. And we used a crop circle active light sensor manufactured by Holland Scientific to measure NDVI, and that's what's going on in this picture right here in the middle. Here I have 2 more videos. I'll go ahead and play these side by side. The first thing I want to point out is these were both in the same slow motion rate, but just look at the plate on the right, at how much faster it's spinning than the one on the left, just as a result of the faster speed. And what that may cause is the vacuum on the planter to not be able to keep up with actually how fast that plate's spinning. And when that's the case, it's going to lead to skips. And if you look right here where this video ends, there are 7 total holes right here, and there are only 2 seed on that plate. Just for this particular kind of screenshot or where it stopped at, there would be 7 holes and only 2 seed on there. So basically for every 7 seed that you are expecting to be putting out, it's only putting 2 out at that speed. Looking at some pictures that we took of our seed placement. These 2 pictures on the left side of the screen are from our slower planting speed. I just want to point out the seems to have good spacing uniformity. I don't notice any skips or doubles. Seems to have really good singulation. That just looks good at the slower planting speed. But then these 2 pictures on the right, these are our faster planting speeds. And the third one, you can see I just put that yellow box up there, and inside there, there's a large gap with only 1 seed in it. So we saw a lot of these large gaps similar to that with that ultra fast speed, but also inside these blue ovals right here and up here in the second picture, what we noticed was sometimes whenever the planter, the seed plate was struggling to keep up, and it would, sometimes it would catch up and it would just dump out 2 or 3 seed right there, really close to each other. Sometimes like these examples on top of each other. And then that leads us to our seed spacing data from our mean seed spacing in centimeters. We have our slowest planting speed on the left side of this graph, which our 4 kilometer per hour planting speed and the 6.4 were both similar. They were kind of around that optimum range of seed spacing. And as we moved up to 8.6, we saw an increase in seed spacing, but not near as tremendous as the increase we saw as we get to our highest planting speed, where we're getting close to 16.5 to 17 centimeters between each seed. And that's just never going to lead to an acceptable stand if you have, 17 centimeters between each seed on average. Here's some plant emergence pictures of our different speeds. The 2 on the left, as we move from left to right across the screen, naturally will be increasing speed. But the 2 on the left, you see a pretty uniform, good looking canopy, not much to complain about with those. Moving to the third one, our 8.6, you see a couple of gaps going up the row, like right there, and right there, but nothing extremely terrible. And then at our 11.1, it's very spotty, very skippy. And one thing I want to point out while we're on that subject is all this bare ground that you are seeing here, especially early in the season, is just going to promote and kind of lure in thrips who are attracted to the bare ground, and you're going to open the door for greater incidences of tomato spotted wilt virus and also potentially weed escapes with that amount of bare ground. Our plant emergence data, the plants per meter were highest for the 4.0 kilometer per hour speed, and with each increase in speed, we saw a decrease in plant emergence, especially at 11.1. It's a really significant decrease, looking when you refer it back to those slower planting speeds. And moving into our NDVI, this is a graph overlay. The top half is what we took with that active light sensor, and the bottom is just a regular drone picture that we took, and then we overlaid that. And the picture on the left is our slower planting speed. You can see it maintains a fairly constant line all the way across, and that matches up with that full canopy that we're seeing there. And then looking at figure 4 on the right for our faster planting speed, you can see these dips here in this graph, and they correspond with the bare spots in the field. So that just that'll help to visualize where this next data set is coming from. So the NDVI was very similar for our ultra slow and medium slow planting speed. And as we moved up to our 8.6 or our medium fast planting speed, we saw a decrease in NDVI. And as we moved on to our ultra fast, we saw a significant decrease, very extreme decrease in NDVI. But very important to look at the yield. So what we're going to have here is our two separate locations. Tifton is going to be our blue bars and Attapulgus will be the orange, but we'll look at Tifton first. Yield was similar for our two slower speeds. And then as we increased to the 8.6, we saw a decrease in yield, and the trend continues. We moved to 11.1, a very tremendous decrease in yield. And for Attapulgus, yield actually maintained all the way up to the 8.6 kilometer per hour speed before again a significant drop off at the 11.1 mark. So moving into summary, plant emergence was greatest for the 4.0 speed and decreased with each increase in planting speed. Average seed spacing was least, which in this case was a good thing for our two slower speeds, and increased at the 8.6 and was greatest at the 11.1 mark. NDVI was greatest at 4 and 6.4 kilometer per hour speed, and again decreased at our two faster speeds and was lowest at 11.1. Attapulgus location was able to maintain yield up to that medium fast planting speed, and then was lower at the 11.1. And Tifton location yield was similar for 4.0 and 6.4 speeds, and decreased at the 8.6 and was lowest at the fastest speed. So just to kind of wrap all that together and sum it up, planting at speeds exceeding 6.4 kilometers per hour is not recommended based off of this study, and it can lead to a decrease in plant stand, NDVI, and most importantly, yield. And also, like I mentioned before, could lead to a situation where a replant may be necessary, thus causing more time and more money than originally needed. Some ideas that this has given us for future research is to determine the impact that varying soil type has on seed depth placement. We didn't really pick up much of anything from the downforce with these results, but both of these locations are more of a loamy stand. So we're thinking that if we tested this in maybe a heavier soil type, that downforce may have a bigger role to play. And also downforce may come in more handy under various soil moisture. Maybe it would do better in drier or wetter soils. Also using a row cleaner or surface tillage device, and comparing strip tilling and conventional tillage with planting speed and downforce. I'd like to acknowledge our technician, Zachary Cromer, fellow graduate students and student workers for Dr. Tubbs and Porter crews at UGA, and also the UGA Lang Farm in Tifton and UGA Attapulgus farm staff, and a special thank you to the Georgia Peanut Commission and Georgia Seed Development for all their support. And I would like to take any questions, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Hayden. We've got time for questions. Any very interesting work. Any questions for Hayden? One comment I have, it's not so much a question, I guess, but is that as a plant pathologist working in peanuts, I'm always called out to make look at stand issues and poor stand, and almost always the finger is pointed either at poor quality seed or at a problem with seedling disease and possibly a fungicide problem. But after seeing some of your pictures there, it's clear that that the speed at which you plant the peanuts may give you a situation which is nearly identical to poor seed quality.
Exactly. And I don't know, some of these new hydraulic driven planters and the precision planters, they may be able to keep up with those faster speeds, but this is kind of what the traditional and most people are still operating with.
With that, I don't believe we have any more questions, and I thank you for your presentation.
All right, thank you.